The three-game winning streak is over. The Chargers fall to the New England Patriots 23-14, and it is time to talk about everything that happened last night at Qualcomm Stadium. Welcome to another edition of Bolts Brown Bag, live every Monday at 12:30 on 10news.com. Coming at you from our 10 News Cafe patio, where the weather is pretty good, comfortable, as it always is here in San Diego. And unfortunately, the Patriots got a little too comfortable last night against the San Diego Chargers. Our special guest today is going to be Matthew Hall from the UT San Diego. He's going to be here in just a moment. But what makes today's show a little bit different is that Matthew is a well-known Patriots fan in town, a New England transplant who cheers for the Red Sox and the Patriots. So he'll have the bragging rights for the show today, but plenty to discuss about yesterday's game. And why don't we start with the positive, and that is the play of the Chargers defense, which you could argue might have been the best they've played all season, keeping Tom Brady off balance for much of the game. Chargers kept him out of the end zone in the first half on a couple of red zone possessions. Of course, the Bolts took that 14-3 lead, and things were looking good early in the second quarter for the Chargers, a chance to really take a firm control of the AFC wildcard chase and even get in the picture for the AFC West title and a first-round bye in the playoffs. Unfortunately, the Chargers' offense just kind of fell apart in the second half, and some questionable decisions. We'll get to the fourth quarter decision to punt in just a second. Matthew, why don't you come on in? We'll get you right here. Just jump right in. That's how it works here on Bolts Brown Bag. But got our poll question up at 10news.com/Bolts Brown Bag, where you're watching us right now. And the question is, should Mike McCoy be criticized for the decision to punt in the fourth quarter with the Chargers down 9 and just over 6 minutes to play? And the choices are yes, no, and not sure. I fall firmly in the yes category. We'll see if anyone thinks that Mike McCoy made the right decision, but we'll discuss more of that later. But let's bring in Matthew T. Hall from the UT San Diego. I've already outed you as a Patriots fan, so you can't get away with it. But
I think most of
welcome.
San Diego knows, actually, that I'm a Pats fan and a Red Sox fan. But it's football season, so let's talk about it.
All right, so first of all, just kind of as a Patriots fan, what did you think about your team's performance yesterday, coming in and getting a win over a red-hot Chargers team that had won 3 straight?
That was a big game. All week it felt like a playoff atmosphere, right? I mean, I think most people agree with that, whether you're a Pats fan or a Bolts fan, or in my case, both. Everyone wanted to see a good game, and for 3 quarters, we saw a very good game. And for 4 quarters, some of us saw a great game. But I think what comes out of this is that these teams have 3 games ahead of them. The Pats have a much easier schedule, but the Pats are going for home field advantage. Chargers are going to make the playoffs. You know, there's still a lot of football left.
Yeah, we, bottom line, the Chargers probably mathematically have to win 2 out of their last 3 to make the playoffs. In fact, I was looking at one of those websites that does the odds, and the Chargers still control their own destiny. So if they win the last 3, they're in. Mm-hmm. If they win 2 out of 3, the math says there's still about 90% chance that they'd get in at 10-6. So I like those odds for the Chargers. The question is whether they can win 2 out of the last 3 with Denver and Peyton Manning coming to town this week, and then road games to close the season at San Francisco and at Kansas City. I mean, we knew from April when the schedule came out that it was going to be a tough closing stretch. Now is where the Chargers have to earn their money, have to prove their mettle to see if they can actually get it done here at the end of the season.
Well, they do pretty good with playoff odds. As people will recall, last year they were like a 3.6% chance to make the playoffs, and they did pretty well. So we'll see. Obviously, the big game against Denver, huge implications. If they lose that, they're not out of it by any stretch. And a lot of people had penciled in that Chiefs game to end the season, and I think that's what it's going to come down to.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the fans. In fact, we had our 10 News cameras at Qualcomm Stadium last night to just kind of get a sampling of what Chargers and Patriots fans were feeling near the end of the game and on their way out after the 23-14 win by the Patriots over the Chargers. So let's take a listen.
Come on, Reavers. You're my man.
Right, Robert.
Don't make me cry, man.
I thought it was terrible. Chargers offensive coordinator Frank Reich has been blowing it all day.
Where were we in the second half offensively? We didn't do anything in the second half.
Yeah.
You can't beat the Patriots on the road, at home. It doesn't matter. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski. Enough said.
We have 3 more games to go. San Francisco, Denver, and Kansas City.
All right, guys. Chargers lost, but what are you going to do, huh?
Chargers
another.
lost, but yeah, what are you going to do, eh? I love that guy in the parking lot, though, with the Patriots fans doing the tears in the background. I don't know. Now, Matt, you seem like a nice guy, Matthew, but there is a certain amount of arrogance that just seems to come now with the New England sports fan. Where does that come from?
Well, I will tell you, growing up in the 80s as a Sox fan, 1986 was a very tough year. Patriots had a lot of lean years. So I think as a Chargers fan, people can look ahead to maybe some brighter days ahead. You don't just get good and stay good. There were some years that were tough to root for. And in New England, man, you're sitting there in snowy weather, in cold weather. When I was going to games, it was, these aluminum type of metal seats where you're just shivering and you're too young to drink beer to stay warm, and your dad doesn't want to buy you a lot of hot chocolate, so you're kind of got in a corner. But clearly now the Pats are the team that everyone hates, kind of like the Cowboys back in the day. And that comes with the territory.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. I mean, Patriots fans, Red Sox fans, they know misery. They know failure. They should also know that success is fleeting. So maybe you should be a little more careful while you're at the top to treat the rest of us who are still waiting for a championship with a little bit of, empathy and sympathy.
Well, I think there was some understanding. The thing that you got to appreciate about New England sports fans is that they are smart fans, right? They know the games that they're attending, that they're watching, that they're talking about. So as an educated fan, although anyone who's ever been to Anaheim to see a Red Sox game wouldn't be surprised by the number of Pats fans at Qualcomm last night. A lot of people I saw on Twitter were complaining or at least talking about the fact that there were so many Pats fans there last night. Look, it's 25 degrees at 11 p.m. in Boston when this game was wrapping up. Why wouldn't you come to San Diego?
Let's discuss that. And if you don't know, Matthew is in charge of all the social media over there at the UT San Diego. So he's on, Twitter, he's on Facebook, he's got the pulse of where, San Diego is thinking when it comes to the Chargers, the stadium issue, sports fans. He operates the MySpace page over there as well, I'm sure. So Bill Belichick kind of caused some waves this morning. And this is a quote. Ben Valin, who covers the Patriots back there in New England, asked Bill Belichick a question. I know when you're in the game, you're not focused on the atmosphere and the crowd, but did you feel that, and what was your thought on the atmosphere? And here's what Bill Belichick had to say about the atmosphere at Qualcomm Stadium last night. Yeah, there was a lot of energy in the stadium, night game, Chargers in their powder blues, and definitely a lot of energy in the stadium. But there was a sea of Patriots fans behind our bench. I don't think I've ever quite seen that before. They were just all kind of in the same spot. It was almost like a college game in a neutral site where one side of the field is one team and the other side of the field is the other team. It wasn't quite like that, but we had those fans right behind us. They were loud and vocal. There were a couple of times when I was talking to someone or talking to one coach or another while the other side of the ball was out there, and you hear fans yelling, and you're like, oh, what happened? And it was making a good play, and our fans cheering. It was a little bit of a different sensation. So basically Bill Belichick saying that Patriots fans, to him, seemed as loud as Chargers fans at the game last night.
I think part of that was a function of the game, and the Chargers crowd obviously louder in the first half, but you can't troll harder than a college game at a neutral site. And that's as backhanded a compliment as you can give.
It was kind of a trolling compliment, but I want to say this because I think San Diego fans in general sometimes get a bad rap. We know at Petco Park there's a lot of Dodger fans that come down, a lot of Giants fans that come down. And when you see the Chargers, the stadium, you see a lot of opposing colors, Raiders fans, Packers fans when they visit. But at the same time, we're living here in Southern California. There's one team, NFL team in Southern California where 20 million, 25 million people kind of within a 2.5, 3 hour drive probably of Qualcomm Stadium. Their team, wherever they come from, probably only visits once every 2, 4, even 8 years. They're going to make an effort, whatever it takes. They're going to spend the extra money. They're going to make the extra drive. They're going to want to come down and see that team. So in some ways, I think the Chargers are kind of just in a situation where they're going to end up with lots of opposing fans kind of no matter what, just based on where they are in the country and the lack of options for fans to see their teams otherwise.
Well, and someone raised the point that the Rams fans had similar turnout to the Pats fans last night. Very loud, very vocal, and here we are the day after. Should you fault the fans at Qualcomm who showed up and yelled as loud as they want? No, not on either side. I mean, it's a football game, man. People are going to show up. It's a steep ticket. The fans who go are going to be stoked and yell and carry on, and they're going to wear a jersey of their choosing.
All right, you
Is
see
this
the
lunch right here? What
Yeah,
is it?
it's coming out. Yeah, you see the poll question at the bottom of the screen. We're going to get to that discussion in just a moment. But every week it's the brown bag, so we always bring out lunch, and we bring out our sous chef here, Brandon Chambers from our 10 News Cafe, with today's daily special. And you know what? I've seen them all season. Everything has been spectacular. But Brandon, you have outdone yourself today. What is on the menu in the brown bag?
Hey, how you doing today, Ben? Today on the menu is the T-bone steaks with some sauteed mushrooms and peppers with multicolored cauliflower and drizzled with hollandaise sauce. And then to top it off, we have some au gratin potatoes.
Oh, man, look at the cheese on those potatoes.
We need to have a bistro off. This looks better than
honestly,
the UT bistro provides.
when you tune into 10 News tonight, and we're all about 7 pounds heavier, it's not just the camera that's adding the 10 pounds. It's Brandon that's adding the 10 pounds.
Not
with
just
this
me,
lunch.
not just me.
And Charles, of course.
It's
yes,
mostly Charles.
All right, this was Charles' choice. That looks absolutely delicious. All right,
Thank you.
Brandon plays football. He plays for a team in town. He's a wide receiver, and he always gives us some analysis of the game. So, Chargers were in front, 14-3. Everything was going well, and then it just kind of fell apart there late in the second quarter, and they couldn't get it back together.
Yeah, I seen that Tom Brady, once he started isolating Gronk and started getting the mismatches with the bigger, says he's a bigger size tight end with the smaller size safeties and DBs, that's when it really started, he started feeling more comfortable and getting the rock going, just dinking and dunking. The defense, I'm actually surprised that they held the Patriots and Tom Brady actually for so long. The defense, I think that's the only defense that's faced Tom Brady that good so far this year, besides the Packers. And Chargers need to get a run game going. They really need to get a run game if they want to progress further in the playoff season.
Speaking of Gronk, Matthew, as a Patriots fan, there has to be at least some reservations you have to cheer for a meathead like that, right?
Well, as someone who is on Twitter and sees Justin Bieber this and PB that, but he's like the player in between the end lines and the sidelines. When the game's on, you root for him, man. He is a chucklehead, plain and simple. But, I saw someone talk about trolling. Someone said that he's as good a tight end as there has ever been in the history of the National Football League right now. Comparing, everyone knows Antonio Gates is in that discussion. But my friend who works at the Boston Globe looked at the statistics. At this moment in time, there may not be a better tight end playing the game
Well,
better.
Gates has great career numbers. Tony Gonzalez was fantastic.
Sure.
Kellen Winslow played here in San Diego. But if you watch on the field, just how difficult it is to stop Rob Gronkowski, you can see if he can stay healthy. That's really the only knock against him, staying healthy, that he can do just about anything. Brandon, I want to ask you about, as a wide receiver, it looked like the Patriots were very focused on putting Darrelle Revis on Keenan Allen and taking him out of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a great job. I mean, the Patriots secondary, they played well. I mean, the Chargers didn't score, not just because the Chargers couldn't play well,
Yes.
but the Patriots were taking it away from them.
Yes, and Darrelle Revis had like I think he's fitting in very good with the Patriots defense. Thank you. He's progressed more as a not like I can show you. I'm a prove to you that I'm still the best DB, and he's pretty much showing it all this year with the tackling and the bat downs, and I think he's getting up there again with the interceptions. So I would call him back to his old game again.
Yeah, he looks fully recovered from that injury finally. And the last few weeks, he's gone against some of the best in the league and really shut him down. So, he's back to Revis Island like he was with the Jets a couple of years ago. That looks sensational.
Thank
Can't
you.
wait for lunch. Thanks for stopping by, Brandon.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Brandon Chambers, our sous chef, football resident genius here at our 10 News Cafe. Let's talk about the issue that I started and brought up at the beginning of the show, and that was in the fourth quarter. Chargers had gone down 9, 23-14. Had the ball, though, got to midfield, a little over 6 minutes left, and they're facing 4th down and 4. And Mike McCoy decides to send Nick Novak, because Mike Cyphers was injured, out to punt, hoping that they can get the ball back twice and score and win the game. Didn't happen. To me, it seemed pretty clear that it wasn't going to happen either. To me, the most likely way the Chargers were going to win that game was to go for it on 4th and 4. You're a Patriots fan. When the punter started trotting out, what did you feel at that moment?
I actually might be in the minority with this view in San Diego. And incidentally, our columnist Matt Calkins wrote his piece from the game yesterday on this very question and issue, and it is the most popular story on our site today. But I think he should have punted. You know, I think in that situation, you punt, you hope to get the ball back, as they did with 2 minutes left. Philip Rivers just had a great 2-minute drive 2 weeks ago. And as a Twitter aficionado, let me just say, there's an account called NYT Fourth Down Bot that is tracking every fourth down this season in the NFL, and it says whether it would have gone for it or not. In this case, it said it would have gone for it, but that the success rate was only 46%. And that the biggest question is, you go for it in that situation, you're 10% likely to win the game. You don't go for it, you're 5% likely to win the game. That's a lot of stats to throw out
Right.
there. The bottom line is, it's a judgment call.
Right, and the Chargers probably weren't going to win anyway, but you know, and that bot, which is just kind of a computer model of whether it's advantageous or not, would tell you should always go for it in that situation. In fact, at midfield on 4th and less than 5, the numbers say you're more likely to have added points value at the end of the game by going for it every time. I don't expect a head coach, Mike McCoy, to go for it every time, but when you're down 9 and timer's running out and you got Tom Brady on the other side of the field, to me, that seems like it has to be the time to gamble. And a lot of Chargers fans certainly agreed. In fact, here was just a sampling of some of the tweets last night about the decision. This one from Gabriel Yanez Garcia, Poison Us on Twitter. Why is Mike McCoy calling timeouts? He threw in the towel when he called for the punt. Jeff Nieberg says, someone should walk down on the field and fire Mike McCoy. How in the world do you punt right there? Jacob Havel tweeted, you're really going to punt Mike McCoy? Just go to the locker room right now. And at Base Chasen tweeted, Mike McCoy's decision to punt, probably one of the worst calls of the year. I saw a lot of that. I'm sure you saw a lot of that on social media last night, just the incredulous attitude of Chargers fans that they would even try to punt there.
Well, I think one word is inexcusable, and if they don't make the playoffs, Calkins used the word unforgivable. Tells you all you need to know right there.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with Matt's column at this point. They probably wouldn't have won. So, you can't say if they don't make the playoffs it's because they didn't punt in that situation. It was going to need a comeback like last week, but they did it last week, and you just want to give Philip Rivers the chance to pull it off again. Instead, you give it to Tom Brady, who's able to bleed off about 4 minutes, and then by the time you do get the ball back, there was really nothing the Chargers can do. First poll results in, 75% say yes, Mike McCoy should be criticized. 8% say no. 17% not sure, but that's just a few votes in so far. All right, each week, Matthew, we give out a Bolts Brown Bagger of the Game Award. Try to highlight some of the players on the roster who don't get a lot of the publicity, not the Philip Rivers and the Antonio Gates. So without any further ado, this week's Bolts Brown Bagger of the game is... Almost. We almost had it. There we go. Yeah, Darryl Stuckey. He had the touchdown. Yeah. So that kind of put everyone in the mind of Darryl Stuckey. But to me, where Darryl Stuckey's real value is on special teams as a great gunner. And what I loved about the touchdown that he scored in the second quarter, picked up the football, ran it in, was the fact that on the ensuing kickoff, he went down on the field and made a great tackle right after that. That's why he wins the Bolts Brown Bagger of the Game Award, not for kind of being in the right place at the right time and scoring a touchdown.
Yeah, that touchdown was a huge play at that time, and I think it actually changed the game because I was watching the game with my 6-year-old daughter, and she was putting on a fashion show and frankly annoying me, and at that point I said, why don't you go read a book? And that's when the Pats turned it around. So, no, Stuckey, that was a heck of a play.
Yeah, and, Stuckey, a critical part of the Chargers special teams, as is punter Mike Cyphris. He was hurt, as we mentioned, in the second quarter on that block kick. And I know several reports, including Michael Gelkin from the UT San Diego, reporting today that Cyphris having surgery for a broken clavicle, which is bad news. Certainly he's going to be out. The question is whether or not the Chargers keep him on the roster, hope he can get healthy in time for the playoffs if the Chargers make the playoffs, or they simply put him on injured reserve and end his season. But either way, the Chargers will be bringing in punters likely this week for tryouts and signing someone else. You can't have Nick Novak handling both duties, even though after the first couple, he did okay. That's a tough spot to be in. You're practicing one thing. Place kicking and punting are very different things. As Nick said, the biggest thing is you have to catch the ball on a punt. He doesn't have to ever touch it as a place kicker. Yeah. It's just sitting right there for him to kick. That's a big difference, and he did it, pretty flawlessly. I got to give him credit.
Those first two were dogs, but then when he hit that 51-yarder, you knew that wasn't going to be the reason they were going to lose this game last night. But of course, they need someone to fill in. It would be interesting if they carry the possibility of Mike's return to the playoffs. Knock on wood. Hopefully that'll happen. But 3 weeks is a long time, and broken clavicle, it's going to take some time to heal.
Yeah, the reason the Chargers lost the game, you mentioned that wasn't the reason why they lost the game. I'm going to also have to throw out there and say the defense is not the reason they lost the game either. They gave up the one long touchdown to Julian Edelman, but give him credit for making a nice play, breaking a couple of tackles, and I think the Patriots really set that up with a good play fake. The rest of the game, I mean, they stopped Tom Brady a couple of times in the red zone. Manti Te'o had the interception. If you hold New England to 23 points and Tom Brady was off balance for a lot of the game, didn't get a first down in the third quarter, that's a success. That's pretty much all you can ask for from your defense. They even scored 7 points. So, to me, the reason the Chargers lost the game was on offense. They put 7 points on the board offensively, and I'm trying to pinpoint where exactly it all went wrong for the Chargers. I mean, they were running the ball well in the first half. Ryan Matthews was moving. Then he got hurt. That could have factored in. But really what I was looking at was kind of the offensive line and Phillip Rivers. There was just some sort of disconnect there that didn't work. And you saw it. Phillip Rivers got sacked 4 times, and he wasn't happy with his offensive lineman a couple of times. Chris Watt, and we got a couple of stills that I took from the game last night of after he got sacked in the third quarter. That is Phillip Rivers yelling at DJ Fluker for letting a rusher come around the outside. And you can just see that Phillip Rivers, he did this a few times during the game, not happy with his offensive lineman. Of course, after the game, he got a little more diplomatic, right, talking about what the problem was. So we have that as well.
I don't know really the reason for a couple of those tonight, but we're all accountable, all of us, the whole offense. And our offense tonight scored 7 points. And I think the first guy you look at is a quarterback, and I can stand here and say I didn't play up to par, and that's probably pretty clear watching it.
Yeah, I think that was fair, too. I don't think Rivers had his best game either. He was off target on a couple of throws that were there, a little behind the receivers. Just not quite the sharpest game. And, hey, you're not going to beat the New England Patriots if you don't play one of your best games of the season, and Chargers didn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, he was still in the MVP discussion going into this game. Afterwards, clearly that was a bad game that he threw, worst of the year. A lot of people are saying missed a lot of throws, or a few throws. And enough. He could have been the difference maker, and he clearly wasn't. All
right, another thing we do every week inside the Brown Bag is we get Ferris, our web editor, to come in and give us 3 NFL questions. So Ferris Tanyos is here with this week's 3 questions for the Brown Bag.
All right, so first question. If you were casting an MVP ballot right now, would J.J. Watt get your vote?
I think so. I think so. Even though we discussed last week, and we wrote a column where I said I would start my franchise if I was picking someone now with Andrew Luck and not J.J. Watt. Just the amount that he's done, the way he has played this season, dominated on defense, scored a couple of touchdowns both offensively and defensively. If he's not going to win it this year, then a defensive player is never going to win the MVP award. And you can't really call it the MVP award. It's simply the most valuable quarterback or running back or maybe once in a blue moon wide receiver. But in this case, if you want to show that it's really an MVP award, most valuable player, I think you do have to give it to J.J. Watt. And, hey, Houston went from, 2 wins last season. They're still in playoff contention at 7-6 right now.
Yeah. Well, and I saw today that they have the 8th best conference record. So they are climbing, and they're a few wins away from taking a spot from one of these other teams. I don't know if he's the MVP. I mean, I think I'd favor an offensive player over him, but it's a good discussion, and maybe this is his year.
Who are the top, if you had to pick 4 contenders right now, who are your 4 contenders?
I think Brady and Manning have to be in the discussion. I've talked about DeMarco Murray. Depends on how the Cowboys kind of finish the season, but we haven't seen a season like this from a running back in a while. So I'd probably throw him in the conversation as well. And you got any other names in mind?
I mean, I think it's going to come down to Brady or Manning, like you said. That's
Aaron Rodgers has been terrific as always, and Green Bay's red hot too. So
one of those teams runs the table. We'll see.
The usual suspects. Kaiser Sose for MVP. There you go. All right, question number 2.
All right, question 2. So after C.J. Anderson's 1-yard touchdown run yesterday in the Bills-Broncos game, the camera caught 2 refs fist bumping at the goal line. Fair or foul?
Okay, I didn't see this, so you're going to have to.
It's the first time hearing of it,
You're
too.
going to have to explain. They were fist bumping like, hey, what a great touchdown run, or what a great call we just made on that touchdown. Give me some context.
So it was a tough call. It was C.J. Anderson trying to force his way in. He's under a pile. You can't really tell if he's in or not. Then one of the refs puts his hands up. The other one, they're kind of standing next to the pile, and then you just see them go. Just
Right there.
fist bump.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hey, good
And it
teamwork.
got a lot of reaction on social media.
Good teamwork.
Zebras are people, too. You
Yeah.
know,
The
it's come on.
NFL came out and said today there was nothing wrong with what they did.
Hey,
So-
yeah, they're just congratulating each other. Hey, good positioning on that play, man. Very impressive.
I don't know. If they're going to crack down on celebrations in the end zone, maybe they should.
That's true.
That should be a foul.
Referees probably shouldn't be making any headlines whatsoever. You know what? The greatest, though, I mean, I don't know if you saw it. The greatest thing yesterday was what Jeff Fisher did. Did you see that?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So it's the Washington-St. Louis game, and Jeff Fisher sends out as his captains for the coin toss
Oh, yeah.
the 6 players that the Rams acquired thanks to the RG3 trade to just completely troll the Washington Redskins at the opening kick. I mean, they walk out there and it's like, okay, this is what we got for your quarterback that you can't even stand anymore and are probably getting rid of. I mean, at least some coaches still have a sense of humor. I don't like Jeff Fisher because I think his teams are dirty, and you know, we remember what Sean Merriman with the Titans and the cheap shots, but at least he's got a sense of humor, I guess.
That's pretty
That's
brilliant.
It's trolling.
Yeah.
It's trolling, right?
That's funny.
All right, question number 3.
Okay, so third question. So my column yesterday, I wrote about the player-coach duo. It's one of the biggest variables in sports. You know, you've got great coaches, great players. Joe Montana, Bill Walsh, Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson. Now you've got, Andy Dalton, Marvin Lewis. That was a joke. So looking at Brady Belichick, where do they rank? Are they the greatest player-coach duo of all time?
I missed your joke because I was thinking of my own. I was going to say Kevin Gilbride, Ryan Leaf. So I was too busy coming up with my own joke to laugh at yours. Sorry, Ferris.
That's fine.
I think that's a good question. I
yeah.
think it's too early, though. I think, Brady could get a couple more rings, and then that discussion is over. With 3 rings and 2 losses in the Super Bowl, I mean, I guess they're in the discussion. But Jordan and Jackson,
Yeah, I think your
give me better
call
than that,
of Jordan Jackson was a phenomenal choice of best coach-player combination in sports history. I mean, I don't think in baseball you'd ever come up with anything that would come close to that. So, I mean, basketball is such a star-driven sport and even a coach-driven sport that I think it lends well to that question. I mean, you can go back to the the great Celtics eras and Russell and Jones or something like that, but Russell and Auerbach, possibility. But Jackson and Jordan, I love that call.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Great job. 3
Cool.
questions with
Good
Ferris,
questions.
as always. Before we get to the end here, half hour flies by, doesn't it?
That was fast.
I know,
That
it
was
goes
fast.
quickly. Like to update the standings where the Chargers now stand with just 3 games left in the season. In the AFC West, thanks to a little help from the Arizona Cardinals yesterday, the Chiefs remain a game behind the Chargers in 3rd place. Those 2 teams will still meet in that last game of the season. That's coming up. But Chargers now 2 games behind the Broncos, and there's really no way the Chargers can win a tiebreaker with the Broncos, even if they beat them this week. So Denver is almost wrapped up the division. I mean, they just have to win basically one of their other games the rest of the way, and they should be good. The wild card picture, I mean, look at that.
That's a
I mean,
crowd.
just absolutely crowded. Chargers are a playoff team at the moment, though. I think that's important to remember. Thanks to that win over the Ravens, they've got the tiebreaker over the other 8 and 5 teams. But a lot of these teams play each other the rest of the year as well. The Steelers play the Chiefs. The Steelers play the Bengals. The Chargers obviously play the Chiefs still. So you're going to still see a lot of I believe the Ravens play the Texans coming up in a couple of weeks as well. So there's going to be a lot of movement. Ultimately, the Chargers probably, as I said earlier, have to win 2 out of 3 if they want to make the playoffs here at the end of the season. And, I mean, it's tough. Denver this week with Peyton Manning. Now, I will say this.
I would not look past San Francisco
They're still,
after this Denver game.
they're still one of the best teams in the league. but they've looked a little more mortal the last few weeks. Now, you know, they have not a little bit beatable. I don't know if that's you say that. I mean, Buffalo kind of held with them a little bit yesterday in Denver. This game will be in San Diego. I'm not just writing this one off and saying, oh, this is another loss. I think the Chargers legitimately have a chance to win this game against Denver coming up this week.
Well, I think if they can get Manning off his game, I mean, look, Manning's an old man. As an old man myself, I kind of know what I'm talking about. And, you know, it's a long NFL season, so anything can happen these next few weeks. The Denver game is big, and I think quarterback pressure is going to go a long way.
Yeah, really. I mean, the way the Chargers defense played yesterday, I'm less worried about the Chargers defense against Manning and that Denver offense than I am against the Chargers offense going up against, you know, Von Miller and that, you know, DeMarcus Ware and that Denver defense. If they can put some points up on the board, you know, get into the 20s, maybe get up to 30, I think they've got a great chance to win. I'm just not sure whether or not they're going to be able to do that. So they got to find something that works offensively this week. You mentioned San Francisco after that. The 49ers kind of a mess right now. They lose to the Raiders. That probably will be eliminated this week if they lose in Seattle. They're not going to have a lot to play for. Could be a big break the Chargers are catching, getting a team in disarray that looked like a contender early in the season. And then the last game in Kansas City. I mean, Chiefs came in and won here. Every game these teams play seems to be close lately. I'd imagine that's one of those coin flips that's going to come down to a heart stopper at the end. And we're going to, just like last season, we're all going to be holding our breath for the final 2 minutes of the season to see who makes the playoffs.
Yeah, it's going to come down to that game, which is interesting because, I mean, I thought, speaking of the Niners, that a new stadium was supposed to help you win. Isn't that what
And it's
works?
really, no, I mean.
No, it doesn't work that way?
A warning to the Chargers and their fans. That stadium in Santa Clara has not been a great home field advantage for the 49ers this season.
No. So we'll see. I mean, this Denver game is big, but I think 2 out of 3 will go a long way. And it's such a crowded field that, you know, anyone who gets their hopes too high or too low this week or the next, you know, just wait until that Chiefs game.
Yeah, only 3 weeks, but still a long 3 weeks to go. Final poll results, and this is just a few votes in over the last 30 minutes. Yes, Mike McCoy should be criticized for punting, 77%. No, he should not, 9%. And we have a 14% contingent out there that is just not sure about this issue. So thank you for joining us on this edition of Bolts Brown Bag. Matthew, thanks for coming in and joining us here. Next week, by the way, Kimberly Hunt will be sitting in with me, a noted Chargers fan. I just wanted to have her on Broncos week, and hope they get a win for Kimberly because she'll enjoy the show a lot more if the Chargers win. But until then, we'll be back next Monday at 12:30. Thanks for joining us on another edition of Bolts Brown Bag here at 10news.com.
Sit down.
Come on, Reavers. You're right, my man.
Redmond Browner.
Don't make me cry, man.
Incomplete. I thought it was terrible. Chargers offensive coordinator Frank Reich has been blowing it all day.
Where were we in the second half offensively? We didn't do anything in the second half.
Yeah.
You can't beat the Patriots on the road, at home, it doesn't matter. Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski. Enough said.
We have 3 more games to go: San Francisco, Denver, and Kansas City.
All right, guys. Chargers lost, but what are you going to do, huh?